Anna, uh, you've done stuff. Uh, your father Carlos has done stuff that has traveled very extensively. He's recognized the world over. What is your take on this? What do you really believe that you are doing and that you want to do that is truly international?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm very happy to be in India again at this amazing film festival at the Film Bazaar. And I'm very happy being here talking about the stories that travel because we've been working for a year now with you, Bobby, and with Casa de la India in Spain, and also with different with Valladolid, Country City Hall, about a story that we think it can be a worldwide story, but that it's based, it happened in India, but it's from a character that is from Spain. So me as a producer, I'm always thinking about how to make stories that travel, you know, and we live on the internet era. We live on the a world where we can share everything through internet. We live in a world we have access to all the content every time in every part of the world. So for me as a young producer and that have the legacy of my father, that he did many movies that travel all over the world on a different time of the world, no? So it was completely different because at that time when my father started making movies at the 60s in Spain, they didn't have internet and they were just a few filmmakers making movies, so they just trying to show their own stories. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing on that time about our project and my father's movies, and of course all of the movies of the filmmaker of the world that they're traveling and that we know that we've been talking about that, is to find the connection with the audience through the emotions, as Vani said, and that, as we've been talking many times now in Spain. And that's what I'm focused on, trying to find the emotion, trying to find that story that it belongs to us as a humans, and that's the way that we can tell any story. It can be in India, it can be in Spain, it can be in France, it can be wherever in the world. But the important thing is to find these emotions, is to find these characters that they can tell the story that connects with the audience. And it doesn't matter if it's, in our case, no, we are making a documentary about a Spanish dancer that came to India to find, you know, their own artistic way and to learn about Indian dance. And now, in the present, her daughter is doing the same trip, trying to find her own way. But the important thing here is, I mean, of course it's India, of course it's Spain, but it's this searching of the identity. And I think this is a story that it can be in all over the world, and that's why this story travel. So, let us say, for me, the important thing is that, and I think we have we are very lucky of living nowadays that we have platforms, that we have many festivals all over the world. We have many places where we can show our projects, our movies. It doesn't matter if it's a theater movie, a series, short film, documentary, animation, but I think also as a producer, but also as a filmmakers, that we have the responsibility of take care of our projects. We have the responsibility of promote them very well, to go with the projects where all over the world or wherever we can go, but just always taking care of them and trying to find these stories, these characters. And it doesn't matter if it's not the format, it doesn't matter if it's a documentary. Of course, I love documentaries, and that's why we're working on a documentary, but I did many feature films, I did short film series. But to find these emotions, this connection with the audience. And of course, it's not easy, because if it were easy, you know, everyone would do it. So, but this is the challenge, to find these themes that can travel and that can be in any part of the world and that they can be understood in all over the world. It doesn't matter if it's in Spanish. Of course, in Spain, we are very lucky too because it's the second language speaking in the world, so we have a huge audience in South America, but also in Europe. But it doesn't matter. You see nowadays with the platforms, you can have the subtitles. So it doesn't matter if it's in Spanish, if it's in Hindi, if it's in Nepali, as you told us. So I think that's why we have to make this effort to find these stories, to work for our projects and to promote the projects because it's very, very, very important. And that's why festivals like Goa, like Film Bazaar, they are very important for us or for me, from the Spanish, from the Europeans, but also from the Indians, or for all the people that will love cinema, because it's the places where we can show the projects, we can show the movies, and where we can make these stories travel.
Thanks, thank you. So, Kanishka, I'm going to try to divert your track to one more element of this conversation. So far, we've actually focused on content. You're an actress, so you represent in many ways the form of how stories are told. So do you see, apart from the content, is there a difference in approach, especially between India and the West, as to how you would deal with a story, the same story, if it was made for India and if it is going to be made for the whole world? How would you think is different from the performer's perspective also?
So yeah, from a performance perspective, the difference is very obvious because our main audience, Indian main audience, is very television friendly. I mean, actually, that is the mass of our audience, and then comes cinema. And cinema here is also like the theatrical cinema is larger than life. It's song and dance. It's celebration. So it's quite celebratory and loud in its expressions. Whereas, and Indians as people also, we are loud. So we express ourselves in that manner, and our audiences also relate to those expressions in the manner which really is very obvious and loud in its expression. Whereas in the West, because of climatic and cultural reasons, the way emotions are expressed are more subtle and more inner, and in terms of acting styles, it always changes when we're doing an Indian film, and at times as actors, that's also a challenge, that this is also real. Like melodrama also can be very real. Like Ritwik Ghatak always made films which had very melodramatic, sentimental, melodramatic expressions, but they hit a very real note, real melodrama. And then there could be fake melodrama as well. And so subtlety can also be fake, melodrama can also be fake, subtlety can be real, and melodrama can be real as well. So that's an obvious distinction. But I think another thing that I would like to say as a performer is that it's about the cultural nuances also that changes, that the way the world perceives certain things about certain stories, like because we are Indian actors, so we are always cast in films which are sort of culturally specific to India. But a lot of times I have witnessed this, that when I'm working with Western directors or international directors, as an actor I have to tell them that no, but this is not true. It doesn't happen in Indian culture, right? Whether it's a custom, whether it's language, whether it's costume. Sometimes it's a very collaborative sort of experience. Sometimes it is that, no, but do it like that because that's how it's perceived in the world. So these are, whereas, an Indian audience will identify it immediately. But having said all that, there are certain things which are very universal, which I think every one of you have spoken, is emotion. That is something really, really universal that will always travel. And I also think that films and stories that actually travel are also extremely local. The more specific they are, the more local they are, with a universal theme and universal emotion, that is what actually travels. I mean, we should not try to make it universal. It becomes universal when the theme and the emotion is. Because as an audience, I think we are also trying to learn about the world, like what Lucy was saying, that as a child, as a growing up teenager, she didn't have enough money to travel. So she was also watching things and learning, right? We also learn when I watch your father's films, like all of Blood Wedding, Love the Magician, Carmen. These are universal emotions of love, jealousy, but it's also expressed with a universal language, which is song, dance, culture, aesthetics, which would travel. And it's so culturally specific to Spain, that is flamenco, and that is what I am enamored and I'm looking for. That's not what I get in my films. So I think when we are watching, when we're looking for stories, it also has to be culturally specific. And that's what I think.
Thanks. There's one other dimension to stories that travel, which is scale. And I specifically bring that onto the table because of a film called Avatar. Avatar starts off as being a very small tribal story sourced out of Orissa, and then gets entirely reinterpreted for world mythology. The question is to the panel, and this will be the last one before we open some audience questions. Do you all believe that that is a form of making stories travel, creating the superheroes or the super world out of very local stories? But what Tanisha says about very local is right. I mean, our film Bandit Queen was local even to India. Even the language and dialect was not understood by most of the country, but the film was, because rape and revenge is understood and all of that. But I'm now talking about specificity, and I'm being very sort of selfish in this, because right now A.R. Rahman and I are working on a musical which is based on a poem written in India. And we believe that that little poem can become an Avatar scale of film just by taking that story out. I will not reveal the name just now, but yeah. I'd like to hear your views on what do you think that Avatar, which is taking a small story and making it into a super story, is something that's going to make it travel. And I'm going to ask anyone who picks up the mic first and thinks they have an answer. Lucy, Farooq, anyone? Yeah, tell me. Lucy picked up the mic first, so you go.
After you, Farooq.
I think that what Tanisha was saying about stories being extremely local, and that locality coming through with a universal appeal, a universal theme, is perhaps illustrated by not a film, but a song genre called reggae. Bob Marley's songs are extremely specific to Trenchtown, but when he says "no woman, no cry," everybody in the world understands what he's talking about. When he says "get up, stand up for your rights," even somebody like Elon Musk thinks he's standing up for his rights, for God's sake. Fighting the unions because I need to be a billionaire. So universally people begin to understand, get up, stand up for your rights. And I've heard in Mumbai, in Bangalore, and now in Goa, reggae playing through. Everybody knows who Bob Marley is. That's a kind of specific place. I mean, I don't know whether Bob Marley knows where Mumbai is, but
you'll be surprised. Tanisha Marley came here thinking that dreadlocks were invented on the Ganges, his daughter.
And the other myths that travel through, look at America. America has no old mythology because it doesn't have a history. It's a creation. It's a modern country, but they needed a myth. So what do they create? They create the myth of humans who have mechanical, electronic, and now IT facilities. So Superman can have X-ray, and Captain Marvel can fly, and that's, and even Batman and people, have spider-like qualities. They're taking on the new myth of technology. And that new myth of technology is spreading through American cultural colonialism. And of course, every youth in the world wants to watch, I don't particularly, some new super people on television. I don't even know who they are. But that's the myth that comes through video games where people shoot each other. And that's why every day you hear in America some student has gone and shot 100,000 people. That's the mythology has given the ethics to America.
Please, yeah.
So interesting. I really resonate with all this and this idea that we really care about individuals. A lot of my films, are about ordinary people and who do extraordinary things. But I feel like we can really care about individuals in a way that a big topic isn't a story. Often people approach me and say, this is a very important topic, please make a film about it. And I have made that mistake a couple of times. And it's a very interesting topic, and I'm always grateful to bash my brains against making a film and learn along the way. But I've really learned that if I take a big topic and try to turn it into a film that people want to watch, it is a really uphill battle, because I think stories inherently are narrative, and we care about people and following them, and we can get involved. And I think it's so much easier to care about one person than a whole lot of people. I think there are lots of great quotes. I'm trying to remember the great quote in literature about this, right? But it's easier to care about one person and follow that one individual story than it is, it's a little overwhelming to think about a whole set of problems. But following one person, whether it's in a mythological story, in a documentary, really gets us engaged, and we'll be laughing and crying and following them. And I think also a lot about moral beauty. There's this fantastic science that I've been following about how we really need awe in our world, and how to be blown away, to be inspired by something that is bigger than ourselves is such a powerful human emotion. And I think with the incredible power of cinema, with the big screen story and larger than life experience of seeing a story on a screen, we can really connect with something larger than ourselves. And I think when people sometimes think about awe as an emotion, A-W-E, awe, sometimes we think about nature, and you may think, you see all the stars, and you think about how small you are. But actually, apparently the number one source of awe is moral beauty and moral courage or compassion, extraordinary feats by ordinary people. And I think that power of story, that we see somebody, whether it's a superhero or a fantastic Bollywood, situation character, or an ordinary person climbing a mountain, really going through something. When we see somebody digging deep and doing something that we don't think we could personally be capable of, but somehow they find the courage or the compassion or the kindness or the brilliance to be that, awe-inspiring. I think these stories really blow us away and have a real power to them. And I think that's something as well that unites stories that travel and that really connects us with a very, very fantastic human emotion that actually apparently also is like the cure for what the world needs in terms of bringing us together and bringing out the very best of humanity.